And me
Well,
too.
okay, we're here.
Yeah.
How about that? Must be Thursday, huh?
Yeah. Gotta be. I'm always messing up.
Not a problem. Look, we need some laughter in this world
No.
nowadays. Got to have a little laughter.
Yeah.
And I tell you, people are too busy trying to do the perfect, and get perfection instead of getting progress. So when it comes to me, I'd rather not have the perfection. If I'm moving forward and I'm getting progress, that works for me. So I'm
Yes.
all excited today. It is Thursday. It is that time for GA for Justice, and I am your host, Georgia F. Allen. I'd like to welcome you to the GA for Justice show today. As always, we want to thank Mr. Henderson Vaughn, who opens up the airwaves to us and allow us to be able to share with our listening audience a little bit of information here and there. And we always like to call him Captain 85, but because we've known him so long, he's been the one that has kept us on the dance floor for year after year after year, and we have enjoyed him from Picasso's to the Broadway to Big Apple. He has been here in the Hampton Roads area bringing joy to the community. So, with that being said, as always, we'd like to have a weekly conversation for information, a conversation for correction when necessary, as well as a conversation for transformation. This week, our topic is for our youth: embrace, embolden, and engage. And you said, well, where did you get that from, Georgia? Why did you come up with that particular topic? Well, of course, many of you know I have been actively involved in the community for over 30 plus years. And initially, I started out working with the NAACP Youth Council. And that just brought me such joy because we had the opportunity to share with our young people, from taking them to conferences and conventions to state meetings and various outings that allow them to become more engaged in the community on a local level. And that is critically important because we spend a tremendous amount of time trying to engage people in voting, but they only think of voting when it comes to the presidency. But when you get your young people engaged at an earlier age, they recognize the importance of all elections, not just one. And so, with that being said, I just want to say thank you to my listening audience. Some of you have been here almost from day one. Some of you are new to the show and sharing this information around with your friends and relatives. And for that, I want to say thank you. Um, I have been, again, heavily involved in the community, trying to engage them, trying to embolden them, and definitely embracing them. And it's important that we do that because what we're finding is we have been out here on the battlefield for decades. And sometimes we feel like we're not making progress. And we definitely are making progress. But are we using the right tools? Do we have the right strategy? And do we use the right tactics in order to get to where we need to be? Because a lot of the strategies that we've used have been used for a number of years. And I take absolutely nothing from those who came before us, because I was thinking this week, I said, man, oh man, if it had not been for those civil rights activists and soldiers who were willing to take the brunt of the um, bully stick, they were willing to take the brunt of the dogs. They were willing to take the brunt of the water hoses and all of that. And because they were able to do that, and because they had a fortitude, because I'm telling you, it definitely takes fortitude and strength in order to be able to stand there while someone is harming you and not push back. And because they did that, we can now go pretty much anywhere that we want to go, and fairly safely. But keep in mind, as African Americans, you're never 1000% safe. Give you a prime example. And watching Coco Gauff. Now, while she wasn't unsafe in the sense of being harmed physically, she was unsafe in the sense that the referee was not calling the calls the way that they should, so it didn't allow her to win as many points as she should have when she was in the battle for the trophy. So again, as a people, sometimes we are not safe. And so we want to thank those who came before us that opened the many doors so that we can go and sit in a restaurant today. Even though we still have some concerns and some issues, we're still able to go through the front door versus going in the back door. Can you imagine in 2023 if we were still dealing with that situation, if our children were still dealing with that situation, that when they went for an ice cream cone, someone said to your child, your grandchild, or your great grandchild, no, you can't have an ice cream cone, but you can give me your money. I'll bring you an ice cream cone at the back door. Now, keep in mind, you don't know what they did to that ice cream before it got to the back door. Now, that's the type of life that people lived years ago. So don't ever shortchange the people who came before us. So, with that being said, as I open up today's conversation, I want to just share with you um, something that I did yesterday evening because I kept thinking if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to keep getting the same results. And so there's a group here called Yellow. It's called the Yellow Team, and they have their own private school. And some of the things that they do is they have events in downtown Norfolk at a place called the Assembly, and they bring in guest speakers. So last night I decided we were going to do something different. So I took my Gigi daughter or great granddaughter with me. And so she had an opportunity to meet or listen to four young entrepreneurs. And they shared with the audience for about an hour, 15 minutes, the different tools that they use in order to get involved in and into being an entrepreneur. And so I wanted her to have the opportunity to listen. And she also told her mom, she says, well, if you're not going to go, I want to go with Gigi. and so and so she went with me and she met the people, she engaged. And that's part of why I have embrace, emboldened, and engaged, because I was like, we're not embracing our young people and being accepting and supporting and willingly, enthusiastically promoting our youth. And we need to be more enthusiastic about promoting our youth and making sure that they are in the rooms. We have a tendency, and many of us, not all of us, but many times we have a tendency when we hear that there is going to be a guest speaker, or there's going to be an event, we go alone, or we go with our girlfriends, or we go with our male friends, and we go there, but we leave the children at home. So they're not around that table. And so I did something different. I was the only person there that had a young person with me, a teenager. And the speakers who got a chance to meet her personally, they were engaged with her and they were like excited that here in this audience of these entrepreneurs was this teenager. And I say that because we have got to do better. If what we have been doing all these years was working, all of us would be out of the areas that we're in. We would be further along. And so I want us to remember our youth and not be dismissive of our youth. Remember the potential of our youth because they do have potential. Her the thing that she enjoys is creativity. She loves the arts. She loves drawing and painting and decorating and using her ingenuity to be creative. And so when I saw what the subject matter was going to be, I said, well, this would work well for her. And so we did. We went and we enjoyed ourselves. We met owner of a branding company. And this gentleman, we call him Jay, and it's Jai, not Jay. We call him Jay. And Jay has worked with people like Nicki Minaj. He also has worked with someone like Allen Iverson, and he does the branding. And if you've heard of those rap chips, anybody heard of rap chips?
Mm.
He does that as well. So it was her opportunity to meet someone who owns their own business, who can share with her about the importance of being a business owner. Well, that's emboldening our children. It's teaching our children to have courage and confidence, to be unyielding in their expectations of what they like to see and what they would like to do in life. So I want us to begin to think about some of these things, because if you know me, and some of you do, you know I love using acronyms and things of that nature because they're catchy and they can remind you. And if you repeat them, you will find that people will do them because you've said it so many times. So again, we're going to do the triple E today: embrace, embolden, and engage. And what I love so much about being there is how the business owners were willing to engage her. They not only engaged her when she spoke to some of the people who were on the platform, but other people were gravitating to us as we sat down and we had the little social time and there was light refreshments and all. And we found people were coming over to our table just to talk with her and engage with her and encourage her. And so that was phenomenal, because we think that if we bring our children that they're going to be out of place, but she was very much in place. And what I found when I was there is how accepting that these business owners were of a young child. So I want to encourage you, and this is the reason why I'm doing this show and using these and doing this particular topic, is we're leaving our children home when they should be brought into the room. So I want to encourage you, stop leaving the children home. Bring them into the room. You want to share with us, Henderson?
Yeah, of course, yes. When you when they used to have APAC, and I would bring my kids and his friends to help out and meet the delegates or the people that was running for office, that they vetted them, and y'all had allowed them to speak to the candidates as well. And today, my son is now in the military, and he had, before he started in the military, he had started his own business. He was doing talent shows in the Virginia Beach area, and he always had a nice crowd. He would, he had a small building that he had leased from another Black entrepreneur in Virginia Beach, but the shopping center was small, and the people, so many people were coming that it was taking up parking spaces. And you can't have that when somebody's already been there 10 or 15 years. They ain't trying to hear, hey, you trying to do this right next door to me. But the emphasis that I'm trying to put on that is that when you let them engage, they begin to gravitate towards that. So it's very important to always bring young people in the room. And all the things I did, even talking and doing talk shows, I got videos where he was talking on the mic and stuff of that nature when he was about 7 or 8 years old. So, but I just didn't want my kids to be DJs. That's because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Right. Well, the thing that I remember about your son is he spoke at the Virginia Beach NAACP banquet.
Yeah.
He did the opening, the welcome, and all, and so did your granddaughter. And
Yes.
again, we bring our children in the room, but we don't just bring them in there to sit and do nothing. We bring them in the room so that they can get involved and they can be a part of what is taking place.
Right.
that's another negative thing that we do sometimes is, yes, sometimes we do bring them in the room, but we let them sit there and we
Yeah.
don't give them a position of any type of authority. And working with the NAACP, it helped me to understand and be more aware of how important it is to allow our young people to control the mic, to be able to do the welcome address, or to be able to sing a song solo, or
Mm,
to be able to introduce the keynote speaker. I remember one year, and this is why, again, it's
mm,
embracing them, but we are emboldening them and we are also engaging them. I remember one year we honored um, Senator Yvonne Miller, and
mm,
she was a former senator for the city of Norfolk and portion of Virginia Beach.
mm,
And we decided to honor her. And she was a former educator. And I knew of her passion and her love for children. So when it was time for her to receive her award, we brought a young person up to present her with her award. And she was just totally floored because I'm pretty sure it may have never been done before. I forgot to ask her. But we give people awards for various things, but do we think about who we allow to present the award to them? Because that can make a big difference, not only for the person who's receiving the award, but for our young people who have the opportunity to present an award to someone of stature. And so today, I just want us to begin to think about what we're doing in our various communities, whether you're in New Mexico or California, or whether you are in Nevada or Georgia or Washington, D.C., or whether or not you're sitting right here in Hampton Roads, in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, or the Peninsula. I want you to begin to rethink what we are doing. And are we emboldening our children, or are we suffocating them? And if we're not emboldening our children, I want to ask you to think outside of the box a little bit and look at the organizations that you are a part of. If you are part of fraternities and sororities, do you have opportunities to embolden your youth? Do you have opportunities to engage your youth? Do you have opportunities to embrace your youth? And if you do, I want to encourage you to begin to embrace, embolden, and engage. Because when we do that, we're going to create a whole totally different new group of young people who are going to be the Coco Guffs or the Shari Richardsons, and they're going to be the Vice President Kamala Harris. They're going to be the people that we need in position of authority, and we need to be helping them right now while they're in grade school, and then in junior high school or middle school, and then when they're in high school. We need to do this because if we don't do it, who's going to do it for us? Because we live in a city, and most of you do, where there are various programs for the gifted. And so we have a gifted school, but when you look around who is in that gifted school, there's very few people who look like us in the gifted schools. And I would venture to say that you can go from one state to the other, from one commonwealth to the other, and you'll probably find a very similar situation wherever you live. And I was sitting in the NAACP meeting last month, and we had the school board member come in, and we talked about the various gifted programs and academies and all of these different things that they had. And so while we were sitting there, I asked the people in the room how many of their children had been accepted into the gifted program. How many of their children had first been recommended? you probably saw about 1/3 of the parents or grandparents in the room that their children had been recommended for the gifted program. And then when I asked them how many were accepted and actually placed, now these are members of the NAACP. These are people who are college educated, they got PhDs, they're working all in corporate America. There was not one person in that room that raised their hand that their child or their grandchild had been accepted in the Virginia Beach gifted program.
Not gonna
Don't you
happen.
find that a little odd?
No, not gonna happen. All my kids were nominated. The teacher said, "Get them tested for the gifted class." Talk to the people at the school. They said there's no. My wife, before we got married, when she moved from New Jersey, her son was already in a gifted class in New Jersey, and tried to transfer it down here. When I had to go out there to the school with her, and the lady told us, said, "We're not putting him in no gifted class. He's just gonna be in a regular class."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did. And that's the one. He graduated at 17 years old from Bayside, and then went to computer school in Washington, DeVire, and was there for a year and a half. And they had him teaching the class. And then he got upset because he said they was using him. They didn't want to pay him. So, he left. He got all kind of, FBI clearances. He builds and programs. He's an artist. He create character. He does a lot, but they never ever accepted him in a gifted class. And the one that you met, that I brought to the meetings,
Mm-hmm.
he had got an award for President Obama in the first grade,
Mm-hmm.
for the highest achievement award, from signed by President Obama. Same thing. They wouldn't put him in a gifted class. And I know other people in Virginia Beach, neighbors in my neighborhood, where I used to stay at, and the lady that she was a hairstylist, and she was a master hairstylist, graduated from Norfolk State, and she had the same stories, about how they treat the people in Virginia Beach when it comes to gifted classes and stuff of that nature.
So there's lots of work to do. There
Yeah.
is lots of work to do. And it's unfortunate that this continues to happen in 2023, but it does.
Yeah.
Which means we're going to have to do some different things. We hear a lot about critical race theory. We hear a lot about changing the education system. We hear a lot about let's remove certain books and things. So I'm reaching out to our faith-based and others. And when I'm on the radio show, I'm reaching out to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We need freedom schools, folks. We need to have our own schools. We need to be teaching our children outside of the traditional classroom. We need to embrace our children. We need to embrace their creativity, because no matter how long they stay under that traditional way of learning, they are always missing out in some way, shape, or form. Okay. So therefore, we have a responsibility to come together as a family, as a community, to protect our children and to build up a better environment for them so that they can get through the traditional system, but also have the village overseeing them and taking care of them. One of the other things I always like to share from time to time, and today is a good time to do that, and that is Kwanzaa principles. I'm a strong advocate of Kwanzaa principles, and especially Umoja, unity. We have to get back to being a unified nation. I call us a nation because if we look at the amount of money that we spend as a Black community, we are larger than many of the nations that are out there. We're probably in the top 20 in terms of if we did our gross national product separate from the United States, we would be as large as probably in the top 20. But anyway, unity. We want to strive for and maintain unity in our family, the community, the nation, and the race. So we want to be a united nation in and of ourselves. We want to look at Kujichagulia. We want to look at self-determination because our children, they're special. They are very, very special. And so we need to define ourselves. We need to name ourselves. We need to create for ourselves and speak for ourselves because if we don't, other people will define us. They're going to name us. They're going to speak for us instead of us speaking for ourselves. So it is critically important as we talk about embracing, emboldening, and engaging our young people is that we make sure that they have the fortitude that they need in this day and time to sustain them, to be able to get across that bridge, that barrier, like our forefathers were able to. Another one I want to use is Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. It is up to all of us. It's up to the whole entire village to work collectively. And that is to build and maintain our community together. We need to stop this I situation and make it we and make it us. Okay, we need to make sure that we make our community problems our problems and then solve those problems together. So it's important that we are united. It's important that we have self-determination, and it's also important that we work collectively. We collaborate with one another, and then we can teach that and pass that on to our children. Now, our children are creative people. We as a nation, we are creators. So Kaumba, creativity, to do always as much as we can to leave our community, our children, our family, leave it more beautiful and more beneficial than what we inherited. So our children, they're our community. Our children are our community. And we need to leave them with power. We don't need to leave them in a situation where they're not strong enough to be able to get through the obstacles that's going to be placed before them, because there will be obstacles. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure, using our Kwanzaa principles, standing on our Kwanzaa principles, that we engage our children and we teach our children, we embrace our children, and we embolden our children so they don't ever feel second to anyone else. Engaging, we want them to be involved. We want them to participate. And we no longer want our children standing on the sidelines. We want them to be in the game, not standing behind the fence. So as we're talking today with you, and I hope this helps each and every one of us. And I tell people all the time, because they're like, how do you do what you do? Oh God, you do this and you do that. And I tell them all the time, no one person can do everything, but everyone can do something. It's very similar to what Dr. King said, but I just twisted it a little differently because that works better for me. So when I speak with authenticity, because I can't be Dr. King. So I have to be authentic. So I always try to make sure that when I talk to you, I'm talking to you from who I am, not who someone else is. Doesn't mean I can't quote them from time to time, because I love many of his quotes and I love others' quotes as well. But I do want you to understand that we have responsibilities and we cannot wait for one person to do everything. All of us should be doing something wherever we live, wherever we work, wherever we grow, wherever we build. We should always be looking to be able to reach back and bring someone along. And look at what is available to young people in your community. In our community, we have yellow. That's one of the things we have in our community. And they have, like I said, once a month, they have various events. It's called Bright Sparks. And so you can go there. There is no charge right now for you to go. But keep in mind, when things are available to you and you don't take advantage of it, it goes away. And so, as you see in your community, wherever you live, whatever state you live in, begin to find things that your kids can participate in that brings value. One of the gentlemen who was on stage last night, Sean, he owns a finance company. It's kind of like a finance company, but basically what he does is he helps people who are renting to be able to afford the rent. And he has various tools with technology. It's amazing what these young people have in order for people to get access to funding and finances. And so he's come up with an idea of how they can gain access to financing. Now, that does not mean they get the money for free and never have to pay it back. In some instances, that there is a payback, but it prevents them from being evicted. It prevents them from being in a situation where they're unable to pay their rent and it messes up their credit. So he looks at all of that to try to help them, to make sure that even when they're going through a tough time, he has tools in place to help them during that tough time, put them in a position where they can slowly pay back what they borrowed while they were going through a tough time, and then put them back on solid ground. And I was like, that's interesting. We had another young lady who believes in healthy eating. So she provides resources and things of that nature so that people can have better food. And she also works along with other groups and organizations locally, which is very, very helpful. There are a number of youth groups. Clever Communities, for example. Clever Communities worked to get books by Black authors, Black stories in the hands of our children from grade school through high school, so that they see people who look like them, who are able to share with them the ups, their downs, but they share it from a different perspective so that it's understandable. But they also have books of persons such as General Colin Powell. So they see his face and they don't think that all the generals look like somebody other than themselves. We have Teens with a Purpose. And the Teens with a Purpose is another group that's local that you can participate. Your children can get involved with these groups and organizations. So if you're here in the Hampton Roads area, check out some of these groups and organizations. We also have, of course, the NAACP, and they have a youth council, and you can get involved with the youth council. The nice part about the youth council is it parallels the adult branch, which means the youth have their own president, their own vice president, their own treasurer, secretary, and all of the officers, just like the adult branch, which means they are now in a training mode to be able to go from being in the youth council ultimately to the adult branch, but they're also being prepared to run another organization that may not be a volunteer organization. It may be a paid position, but because they started when they were in middle school and high school, they have developed the necessary skill set to put them in a position to be ahead of the game. And then we also have what we call NAACP AXO, which is the Afro Cultural Technological Scientific Olympics. And the NAACP likes to call it the Olympics of the Mind. And we have a long group of different activities that the young people can compete in. And it can be anything from classical singing to rapping to technology. Is there anybody in the group that is an artist, a designer? All of these different programs come out of the NAACP. And so I want to encourage you because, of course, I have been with the NAACP for quite a number of years. And I have loved it from day one. I have stayed in it because I strongly believe that if every city 90% of the Black community was in their local branch of the NAACP. Anytime you went down to your local city council, or if you're in a county and you got to go down and talk to the county commissioner, any of those things, I guarantee you there will be a different conversation when you slap on the table 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 members of your local branch of the NAACP. It will change outcomes. And our young people can do that by joining early and serving in these different positions because they have an election every year, unlike the adults. The youth has an election every year, so they can change their president from year to year. So each one of them can go through and rotate and get the training that they need to lead an organization. Now, they do have adult support, of course, but the youth actually put together the agenda. They identify the issues that they want to work on. We confirm that that falls within the purview of the NAACP and confirm that that is okay. But once they come up with their ideas and all, we allow them to go forward and do the work. Again, we're there to support them. We're there to engage them. We're there to embrace them. But the goal is to embolden them so that they have the courage and the confidence and unyielding expectations of how far they can go. And let me tell you, they can go as far as they want to go. And we have the faith in them to be able to get that done and be able to accomplish those things. And so I just want the audience today to know that there are resources available. Some resources, of course, as always, there are things that you're going to have to pay for. But one of the things that Sean, who was on stage last night, said, he says the best thing that he used till today is the public library. How often do we take our children to the public library and sit down and allow them to walk through and select books and hold a book in their hand and read books? And how often do we sit down with them in the evening and talk to them about what they're reading? How often do we ask them to write a little synopsis about what they read? We need to get back to doing the little things and doing those things well. And it's just simply getting back to the basics. That's all it is. It's just getting back to the basics. If you want to have success, sometimes you have to go back to what worked the best. Shall I say that again?
Oh, yeah.
If you want to have success, sometimes you need to go back to what worked the best. And that's okay. Sometimes there are things that you want to leave behind and you don't want to use them anymore. But there are other times when there are things that worked successfully and you don't want to leave those things behind. You want to bring them along with you and you want to keep doing them. As long as they're working, you want to keep doing them. Now, do you improve upon them? Absolutely. Can you improve upon those things? Absolutely. But don't leave what works behind. Get rid of the things that are not working and leave that behind. But the things that are working, take them with you and improve upon them. Leverage it. Make it better. Make it better. But again, I was glad that I had the opportunity to attend the event last night. And I do attend quite a number of events all around the city. And I do that because I want to bring information back to you guys. Those of you who listen to me every week, those of you who listen sometime and miss some shows, that's okay. Because guess what? You can go back and click on and say, is this something I want to listen to? Because every show may not work for you. I do these shows because there are millions upon millions of people all around the nation and around the world. So every show is not going to work for everybody. again, like I said earlier, no one person can do everything, but every person can do something. And so we need more every persons, okay? We need more people who will do something, because if we're going to change these outcomes, we're going to have more people in the game. Um, a quote that I like by Dr. Miles Monroe. He says, "Destiny demands diligence. Destiny demands diligence." If you know me, I have been diligent for a long time. I don't believe in jumping in and jumping out. I believe that if you're going to do something, you need to stay in the game, because it's very difficult to win a football game if you decided not to get up, come to the football field, put on your uniform, and be a player on the field. Now, you can brag that your team won, but you can't brag that you were a winner on the team because you weren't there for the team. And so a lot of us are sitting out there and we're not in the game. We're not in the game. And while this person over here may not be able to do what this person does, you can do something. And so I want to encourage you, rethink what you're doing now, because it's affecting our children and our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, and those yet unborn. And so we have an opportunity right now to be able to change outcomes. Keep in mind, we are living in unusual times and we are living in uncharted territory. And that is on many levels. That's in our healthcare, that's in our politics. These are uncharted territory. That's in our education system. We're in uncharted territory. Almost everywhere you go, you will find that housing situation is drab. It's uncharted territory because for the most part, there's always been plenty of housing. If it wasn't housings to purchase, there were places to rent. Today, you can go from state to state and find a lot of the same things going on in our state, where there's a struggle to find decent housing for people to move in and live. So we're in uncharted territory. That means we need more people in the game. We can't have you on the sidelines. Our children need you. They need you to embrace them, to accept them, to support them. And you need to do it enthusiastically. You need to promote them, because our children need you more than they ever have before, because they're under attack in many school systems all over the country, because people like sound bites. And if those sound bites will allow them to get another vote, to get elected to office, they will use that sound bite to the detriment of your children and your grandchildren and those who are yet born. So again, we have an opportunity right here and right now. And I always like to share with my listening audience, in an authentic way, because a lot of what's happening a lot is we hear all the negativity, but we don't hear about how we can make a difference, or where we can make a difference, or we don't necessarily hear that we are important in this game of life, because we tend to look at certain people with certain titles and we decide that those are the people who can make a difference or who can make a change. But that's not the case. The people that marched in the civil rights movement, many of them were folks who worked all types of jobs. Some worked on the farms, worked out in the fields. Some were housekeepers, janitors. Well, guess what? They made a difference, because we live a better life because they made a difference. And it wasn't about status. It was about tenacity. It was about diligence. It was about fighting for those like themselves, but those who may not have been able to fight. Maybe they were injured. Maybe they suffered from polio, because keep in mind, during that period of time, they were still coming out of some of these illnesses. And and um and so the person with polio couldn't go to Washington on that march. But those janitors who did not have polio, they could march to Washington and they could fight for our rights. So keep in mind, there were all different people from all walks of life. There was no one group of people that were all college graduates or all lawyers or doctors or their leaders. They were just regular, ordinary citizens who loved themselves, who loved their families, who loved their children enough to get in the game. And if they could get in the game back then, those of you who are out there listening to me today, I encourage you to get in the game for the triple E. Embrace. Embrace our children. Embolden. Teach them. Give them courage and confidence. Engage them. Get them involved. Don't let them sit on the sidelines. And if you've been on the sidelines, get in the game. It's important that you get in the game, because if you get in the game, you teach your children how to get in the game. And if they're in the game, guess what? They can be that next mayor because they got in the game earlier than you got into the game. They can be that next governor. They can be the head of the Senate. They can be that vice president, or they can be the president of the United States. But they have to get in the game. They have to get in the game early. They have to learn the game. They have to participate in the game. And they have to do it early, because they can't wait until the last second. And then all of a sudden they want to jump in the game. And then they say, well, nobody voted for me, or not enough people voted for me. But nobody knew who you were. They didn't know who you are. And so therefore, they didn't vote for you because they didn't know you. If you get in the game, you get to meet people. Just like my great-granddaughter got to meet people last night and shake hands with people who were business owners, because that's one of her passions, is to perhaps be a business owner. So if she's not going into politics, I need to bring her about around the business owners, but I also need to tell her how politics affect the business owner and how important voting is to her. So keep in mind, it's not a one and done thing. Go ahead and talk to me, Henderson. Talk to me.
Oh yeah, no question. Again, like I said, with my youngest son, I took him around different places, and when y'all had the trip, I forgot what, Richmond, I think it was Richmond or somewhere they went, and he was there to engage with some of the delegates up in Richmond. Senator Louise Lucas, she was doing a speech, and they took pictures, so he was in the picture sitting on the front row and stuff of that nature. So when it comes to young people, that's always been my main goal. I mean, I've been doing this ever since I was a child. I've been around my nieces and nephews. So it's a passion, but most of all, when God allows you to get to a certain age, you have to pay back.
Absolutely.
You have to pay back.
Absolutely. And this is important. We have so many opportunities. And again, I'm going to do a couple of quick announcements.
Mm-hmm.
We have some things coming up. Guess what? In Virginia, we vote every year. So we have early voting. It begins on September the 22nd, which is next Friday. So I want to see everybody that can possibly go to the polls on next Friday. Let's have a party to the polls. Let's call each other up. Those of us who have young children and all, bring them with you and give them a popsicle. Let's do popsicle to the polls. Mm. Some of the kids who don't want popsicles, give them popcorn. Let's have popcorn to the polls. So we want you guys to get excited. You're not going to get excited unless we give you some reason to get excited about. So next Friday, Early voting begins in Virginia, September the 22nd. And then election day is November the 7th. So if you live in Virginia, we vote every year. So get ready and go vote. Also, we have Wisdom from Juanita. I like to announce this each week. On September the 6th, 26th, she's going to be talking about VA benefits. Now, we live in Hampton Roads. We have all of the military here: Coast Guard, Navy, Army, Air Force, Marines. We have them all right here in our Hampton Roads area. So if you are a veteran, or even if you're active duty military, it's helpful to get all the information you can get. And so Juanita is going to be sharing her knowledge. She served with Congresswoman Elaine Luria, and she has a tremendous amount of knowledge because she worked directly with Congress, which means she saw the bills that were getting passed. She saw how it affected our military. And so if you want knowledge, you need to contact her. She has a phone number. It's a Google Voice, 252-621-2549. And I always like to make public service announcement. These are announcements about groups or organizations who are doing things in our community and providing a service that doesn't cost us anything. And again, wherever you live, check out what's going on in your respective communities, because you're missing out on a lot because you're not checking on what is going on where you live. And then you're not sharing that. We need to get back in the habit of treating our lives kind of like that little telephone. You know, you call up one person and you almost have like a telephone tree, and each person may be responsible for calling 5 more. If I call you, you're responsible for the 5 people on your list. I was one of the 5 on that person list that called me, and then I called the next 5, and then those 5 people, they each have 5 people that they're going to call. And when you do that, it's a lot easier to reach the whole entire community. And again, join the NAACP. It has something for everybody, and especially has something for our youth. We have our youth councils, and we have the NAACP AXO, the Afro-Cultural Technological Scientific Olympics, which is the Olympics of the mind. And we're looking for the mathematicians. We're looking for the people in STEM. We're looking for our artists and our creatives and all. And definitely want to join your local branches. And then finally, I'm going to do my closing. I think it's coming up on closing time. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, embrace, embolden, and engage our youth because they are important. So in my closing, I just want to say, as a community, we have assimilated, we have associated, we have acclimated ourselves in this nation for over 400 plus years. We have been segregated, then desegregated, then integrated, but almost always disrespected. Okay? And now is the time for us to embrace, to embolden, and to engage our youth. It is critically important. And always, when I speak at many of the churches, I always try to remind us of how important our name is. We've kind of slacked over the years. We used to be a family of people, a community, a village, a neighborhood that we never wanted to bring shame to our family name. And to our young people, character matters. To our young people, conduct matters. To our young people, values matter. To our young people, principles matter. To our young people, standards matter. And in the words of Miss Sister Soldier, who I always love, standards are non-negotiable. So hold on to your standards, hold on to your principles, hold on to your character, hold on to your values, and keep your name strong. Don't ever diminish your name. Don't allow other people to diminish your name, because one day you're going to wish that the silly stuff you did as a child you would not have done. So, with that being said, I am Georgia Allen with GA for Justice. I have enjoyed speaking with you today. I trust and hope that you enjoyed the conversation. Again, each week we come to you at 12 noon on Thursdays, and we simply just have a nice conversation for information, a conversation for correction, and a conversation for transformation. So I hope that some of you had a transformative moment today. Thank you. All right, it's back to you, Henderson.
All right. Once again, you've been listening and watching GA for Justice with your community activist, Georgia Allen, every Thursday from 12 until 1 noon. And don't forget to hit the share link and share it with people on your social media. Email them, text them, however you want to reach them. Just share, because sharing is caring. Until the next time we meet, this is WVDM and GA for Justice saying, have a nice day.